the Taurus GX4 Carry. How do we feel about this guy after having shot a little over 1,000 rounds through this gun? Well, first off, range report, 1,000 rounds, a little over 1,000 rounds, and 2 documented malfunctions, and both of those malfunctions came out of the same box of ammo, and I have reason to believe that box of ammo was compromised, as in it was left outside in the rain overnight in the bed of my truck. I cannot confirm that that is the root cause, but at any rate, 2 out of 1,000 is pretty good rate of function. We'll go ahead and call it a reliable firearm. Form factor, relatively thin firearm. Even though it is a full capacity firearm at 15 rounds in the magazine, they've done some good work on the geometry of this magazine to bring it to full capacity while still having it have a full grip. You can see that I've got all my fingers on the frame there without a grip extension. So I'm going to classify this as a Glock 19 sized gun, even though it is a relatively thin profile on the firearm. So just kind of think that class of gun, so to speak. Now, the rest of the form factor, the grip angle, is more of a vertical grip angle. I put this in the hands of several relatively inexperienced shooters to get that round count up, and I would say that they took to the grip angle much more intuitively than the Glock or some of the other firearms that I had on the range that day. So I would say that that was a good choice to go with that grip angle, and I do find the texturing on the grips to be more than sufficient. It is pretty aggressive on that grip texture, allowing people to hold on to it whether it's rainy or whatnot.
Ammunition compatibility. There's a wide range of available weights for 9mm out there. What I have here is a 115 grain, and that's going to be pretty standard. This is the 115 grain Fiocchi stuff that we shoot, and it's doing 1,200 feet per second. So we're going to try this one first. I fully expect this one to work. 10 rounds. As expected. Now let's step it up. So this is a 158 grain. I have only seen one loading ever that is heavier than this. Now this one I am not sure about. We're going to find out if the GX4 can handle something this heavy. These are pretty slow. I think they're doing 850 feet per second. So we'll find out. 10 rounds. Yeah, ran great. I did get a piece of frag right there in my face though, so. But other than that, yeah, I'm actually really surprised that it did that. Not a whole lot of pistols can handle the super heavy stuff, so good on Taurus. Impressive.
The rest of the controls on the gun, I would say that the thing that jumps out the most to me is the trigger. Has a lot of positive forward help on that trigger. A lot of times it's up to the impetus of the shooter to kind of guide the reset forward. You've got a fair amount of positive return on the trigger that kind of brings you to the correct space with minimal effort. It did take maybe a couple hundred rounds to get used to that from some of the other triggers that I've shot, but I think that they did a really good job on this particular trigger. It is one of the inside dongle triggers as far as the grip safety, and it just kind of bottoms out on the polymer of the frame to keep it from riding backwards. So that's how that safety works. The slide stop I would classify actually as a slide release. There is a fair amount of meat hanging out for you to be able to actuate that if you are one of the types of people that wants to insert the magazine and push the thing and let the slide go home. It is relatively easy to activate if that's your jam. As far as disassembly is concerned, a lot of times you see the finagling of things to get the gun apart. This is one of those ones where you take a screwdriver, you stick it right there, you turn the thing, and the slide comes off. If we tear into that, we see that this is a dual captive spring with a steel guide rod.
What do you guys say we knock down some poppers? I have an assorted amount of ammunition in this magazine and a full one here. We will force a reload. And go. Ah! We have some auto poppers on the range here too.
Come on, Kurt.
And of course, you know, the auto poppers, they don't go down, but supreme amount of fun.
I think they were going to pull the magazine release into a critique section towards the end, and maybe something on the sights. I'm not wowed by the sights, but I guess what I would say about the sights is they are steel. The rear one is serrated. It's just a little bit basic there on the front, so I don't know that I will actually harp on that too much because, to be honest, I think what a lot of people are going to focus on is the optics ready capability. This gun is currently wearing the Gideon Judge, which is the Holosun K pattern, which this gun is set up for. And what I would say about Taurus's execution on the K pattern is they did a fantastic job. It's got the steel struts that come up through the slide to interface with the optic, locking it into place. The cover for the optics ready capability is made out of the same steel as the slide, and the bolts that hold it into place are Loctited into place with the correct Loctiting compound. I have nothing to complain about here, so good job on Taurus's part putting that together. Accessory rail. We have all the accessory rail counted. 1, 2, 3 sections of Picatinny rail with enough headspace at the back to be able to mount just about any light that you would want to mount on a pistol. The other thing that they've done with this is that they have swooped that trigger guard backward for any of those lights that have kind of a bulbous end or have those switches that hang off. Think TLR1 type stuff, so you can actuate it with your finger on the side. So I think they thought that one all the way through when they were designing that geometry there. Now, on to my critiques. I mentioned the sights. This being a carry gun, all I would say is that I would like to see this tritium ready out of the box. It's not like it's got a V or U-notch sight or some weird crap like that on it. It's a traditional, notch and post sight. So I won't ding them up too much on that. But what I would say about the magazine release here is, and this one is going to be relatively subjective. There are two schools of thought on the magazine release. When it goes into the holster, some people want a portion of their magazine release exposed. Other people absolutely do not. If you pick up half the holsters in this room, half of them will have the magazine release exposed and the other will have it completely shrouded. It really depends on how you're carrying it and how it's set up. Typically, I say that if it is an appendix carry gun, then you should probably have that shrouded. So what I would say is if you're setting this gun up for appendix carry, it's going to be relatively easy to completely cover that magazine release, so it makes sure that your belly meat doesn't get in there and accidentally push that magazine release. So you're walking down the street or whatever and your magazine pops out and falls out of your shirt, right? On the flip side, if you are one of the people that wants that portion of the magazine release to hang out so that you can actuate it, if you're doing one of those drills where you your hand is injured and you put it into the holster, you push the magazine release, you put the new magazine in, all single-handed stuff, then there's probably going to have to be more considerations for that in the formation of the Kydex holster, right? So that's something the market is probably going to have to meet. And the reason for that is if you just simply look at the geometry of this magazine release, it is not a square or a rectangle. It's some other that follows the contour of the line. So I see what they did here as far as contouring it with everything else that is going on with the form factor of the gun. I just think that as far as the button itself is concerned, I feel like it's a little bit small. Okay, and again, my thumb, some dudes would like a thumb that big. That was entirely inappropriate. I'm sorry. Anyway, that is my look at the Taurus GX4 Carry. I'd like to know what you guys think about the synopsis in the comment section down below. Is this a gun that you would consider? I think that it is a good contender in the Poly Wonder space, and I am supremely surprised by Taurus's effort on this one. So thank you for tuning into the VSO Gun Channel, and hopefully we'll see you on another one here in relative short order.